This is Nate Powell, cartoonist behind the March Trilogy and Come Again, and you're listening to the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast.
1, 2, 3.
Tuesday, we're playing Scrabble. She puts the word nabs on the board. I go, what the hell is that? She's like, nabs. No, you can't just repeat it. And that's not an explanation. She goes, like somebody's going to nab some tickets to go to a concert. Get that shit off the board. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not going to fly.
So you know what I hate?
He nabs some kids.
Yeah.
It never fails because you've always got that one person that just has the, I guess, the courage of their convictions when it comes to shit like that. And they'll make up a word in Scrabble and they'll be like, no, it's totally a word. And when you test them on it, they'll go to the dictionary and lo and behold, it's a fucking word. But they had no idea it was a word.
Yeah.
You know what I learned this week?
What's that?
Is that those people are controlled people.
Oh, right.
And when you tell them no, they just yell.
Yeah.
To try and intimidate you into.
Just say the wrong thing louder.
Yes.
Well, it's funny when you ask someone to explain something and they just repeat it.
Yeah.
No, that's not how explanations work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they give you a definition with the word in the definition. No,
right.
That doesn't work either.
Recently, the first time I ever heard the phrase "hot and poppin'," my wife said it. No, it's hot and poppin'. I go, well, what? And I go, what does that mean?
Wait, when was this?
I don't remember what the context was, but
Are you telling me at this moment in time in 2019 that you've just recently discovered the phrase "hot and poppin'"?
That's correct.
You old motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
He doesn't hang out with you whippersnappers.
Yeah, you and your electronic media. Yeah, but I asked her, I'm like, what does that mean? She goes, well, hot and poppin'. I was like, no, that doesn't work. No, you can't just say it again.
It's hot and poppin'. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
all
like
good.
when they dab or floss.
Yeah.
I'm now more impressed than ever that you actually get my emails. Like,
He has to do that for work.
I'm impressed by this.
Yeah. Well, it's like the first time whenever the news broke years ago that Miley Cyrus was twerking. Cyrus?
Yeah.
She was twerking on some kind of something.
Yeah.
I thought that was social media. And I was like, what's the big deal?
Like, what do you mean she's on twerk? Did she put up a twerk status?
It's like, isn't that everybody
What was
doing
it?
that?
Alan Thicke?
Huh?
Alan Thicke? Is that who she twerked on? No,
Maybe.
Alan Thicke's the dad.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't remember.
Alan Thicke from Growing Pains? The dad from Growing Pains?
I don't think she twerked on him.
Yeah, his son is a singer.
Robin
Thicke.
Robin Thicke. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't realize
see,
that was Alan Thicke's
now
son.
who's the old guy? I don't know what the kids
I
are
just
listening
don't
to.
I don't
listen to
listen to
bad
pop.
music.
Yeah.
So you say pop, I'd say bad music.
I hear it at the gym.
Speaking of which,
I don't go to the gym. So.
I told my wife once, I said, you lied to me. She's like, what? And I was like, when we first met, you listened to heavy metal in the car. You knew,
Oh, she set you up, yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, maybe a little. Because all she listens to is country now.
Oh.
Is it new country?
No, she listens to
man.
Wait, she listens to what?
like older country.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
Like,
that works.
I'll take that.
Dude.
I mean, she grew up in Little Rock, so I mean, country was part of.
Yeah, I mean,
she
it is part of
listened
the zeitgeist, like
Yeah.
part of the DNA.
Yeah.
Speaking of country, Sturgill Simpson put out a new album.
I don't know
Do you know who that is? So he's this kind of alt country dude. It's literally like, it's legitimately old school country music. It's kind of this outlaw country stuff. But because Sturgill Simpson's kind of an awesome dude, he's also into animation. And so his new album is a soundtrack to this anime that he had helped produce that's on Netflix right now.
Huh.
So there is and it's funny because earlier you mentioned something about a possessed car. The album cover looks like the Ghost Rider cover, like the current Ghost Rider. It looks like the Black Dodge Charger with flames coming out of it. So it's this alt country thing that is a soundtrack to a Japanese-esque cartoon that's on Netflix, and it's amazing.
I
Wow.
wow. That just a little bit. The new Slipknot video is basically a trailer of the entire first season of Boys.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is Joey Jordison still drumming for them, or did he have to drop out because of his back?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I'd heard that he was leaving the band, but I don't know if he did or not.
So I think the rumor was he had ankylosing spondylitis, which is the same thing that Mick Mars from Motley Crue has, where like your spine just kind of fuses together.
Damn.
Yeah, it sucks. Local tattoo artist Ryan Cook has the same
Wow.
thing. So anyway, you guys want to run a podcast, do a podcast, talk about some comics, talk about some funny books?
Yeah, instead of this chaos shit we're doing.
Yeah, right. I know. See, this is we're
Just
we're
don't
testing a
notice. See
theory.
what he did.
Yeah, he just went right
He
on by.
felt it. He's like,
Chaos. Yeah, what?
we're outside the lines. We're outside the lines.
Get back in control, guys.
We are not abiding by the syllabus. Get back in the outline, you fucking chaos.
Bullet points.
I love them. I love the bullets. Anyway, hey guys, hey all you out there in Radio Land. This
I like
is,
when the bullet's drawn without the casing on it after it's been
I
fired.
prefer the casing-free bullets. I really do. Welcome to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. And as you may have realized, the triad is here, the trio. Last week, Craig could not join us. Jerry was sitting in his seat, and this week they traded out. Jerry has taken his kind of ongoing back and forth between Seattle. So he is up there checking things out and making some waves. So doing cool things. And he'll tell you all about that, I'm sure. But as per usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance.
And it's good to be back. Missed you guys all week. Hope you've enjoyed being part of our social media group. For those of you who have opted to do that, we appreciate you. It's been fun. There's been some cool things happening on there. As always, you can always find out what we're reading, what we're looking at. If you go to our Instagram page or our Twitter page, we're at SFG Podcast on both of those. And if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you can hit us up at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. Been fun times. How's everybody's week been?
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Right.
Mine's been mentally exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a very, very trying week.
Well, hopefully this is a little bit of a breath of fresh air for you, man.
For sure.
It is, definitely.
Yeah.
I know. At least
I always
for
look
me,
forward to Wednesday afternoons, which
Right.
even without you guys there, I still look forward to Wednesday afternoons and Sunday mornings.
Sunday mornings have become my. I guess it's my palate cleanser for the week, and hopefully it is for anybody who listens to this podcast. Maybe
For
if
sure.
you've had a bad week, we hope we provide you with the type of banter, the type of witty witticisms, maybe witty witticisms. That
Witty
sounds like-
witticisms.
yeah,
Witty
alliteration.
witticisms.
That sounds like a
That's my English degree kicking in.
that sounds like a Stan Lee character.
Right.
Witty witicizer.
the level of entertainment that helps you through your day. But if this is your first time listening to this podcast, maybe you're new, maybe one of your friends told you should listen to us, and that's a good friend, you should hug them. Maybe you just found us on iTunes or Stitcher or something, just anything, and you're like, well, what is this? This says it's about comic books, and it is. We are a comic book podcast. We talk about the funny books, we talk about new books, we talk about old books, we talk about manga, we talk about this, that, and the other, because we love it. We love the medium. That's kind of what made us friends. It's how we got drawn in together, and it's what we love to do. So in saying that, we are going to be talking about some comics that are relatively newer this week. And of course with that becomes the inherent thing that maybe you haven't read this book yet and you're gonna, and you should, but you don't want it spoiled for you, and which is completely understandable, right? Like nobody wants to have that spoiled for them, especially this close. So we are giving you the option. We are giving you notice. We are giving you a spoiler warning that we're going to talk about books that you might not have read and that you might want to. And of course, we're going to tell you what that book is first. And if you haven't read it, hit the pause button, go check it out, enjoy it, consume it, make it part of your life, live it, be it, and then come back and hit the play button. And then you get to hear us talk about it. And maybe you agree with us. Maybe you're like, oh yeah, that's spot on. Maybe you disagree. And if you do, that's fine too. You should come tell us about it and why. We love those conversations. But one thing you can't do is you can't yell at us about it, because we've given you this handy dandy spoiler warning.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you can yell at us anyways, you're probably not going to be around.
Don't yell at Craig this week. This is not the
yelling
week.
at me this week would be a bad thing for somebody.
Yeah.
It really would be.
Unless you're going to yell compliments.
Yeah. If you want to say it to my face and say, you're the nicest guy I've ever been.
Jesus Christ, you're good looking.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Matt.
Aggressively complimentary.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. It should be a thing.
Yeah.
You know what else should be a thing?
Short stacks?
Short stacks.
Yeah.
Let's getting this party started. So what is a short stack? Well, a short stack is 3 comics that we have read this week. We might have liked them, we might not have, but we're going to tell you about them just real quick to get us in the mood. Get us in the mood to read and talk about comics. You know, we're dimming the lights, turning on some
Pouring
music,
the wine.
getting that Sturgill Simpson album going.
Velvet
which
Storm.
might be why my sex life is shit, because I think Sturgill Simpson is funky music. But so what did you guys read this week? Who wants to start? Who wants to kick this in?
I'll go first.
All right.
I read Faithless #6, Brian Azzarello and Marie Lovett. This book I thought was actually the last book in the series. They had advertised it as a 6-issue series. And then got a little surprise at the end, says Faith will return in 2020.
Man, that happy ending.
Yeah, dude, that book was really fucking good.
Maria Lovett's a beast.
Oh, the art in that is so fantastic. And again, we've talked about it before. This book gets a little bit of kind of horseshit over being a smut book, and it's not.
Yeah, no.
It's tastefully done. It's presenting real life adult situations in this book with the devil involved.
Yeah.
It's essentially a book about an artist that's being seduced by the devil and his daughter.
Man, Azarello,
it's amazing. I read Angel number 5 from the Buffyverse.
Hey, you were telling me about this, right?
Yeah, Brian Hill, generally, I like the books he does anyways, and he is killing Angel. This is probably the best Angel I've read since the television show was on. And I know I didn't read the television show, but it's the best Angel I've been immersed in since the...
You didn't have the subtitles?
I didn't have the subtitles on. It's Brian Hill, Gleb Melnikoff, and Roman Tateo, I think is how you say his name. And of course they give Joss Whedon credits because he created the characters. But just absolutely fantastic. Black Science number 43, Rick Remender and Matteo Scalera, another book that ended this past issue. We got through the Onion, and
I saw you post something about that. Explain that.
Okay, so what it is, if you've read the book, they're traveling through the multiverse, and in this multiverse that they've created, well, not created, but that exist in this world, every decision that's made creates another layer to the onion, which is another multiverse. So if you think about the infinite amount of people out there making infinite decisions on an infinite daily basis.
I can't think about that.
The multiple, how many universes would you have? How big would the multiverse be? Because what they're saying is every time a decision's made, it splits the multiverse into a new multiverse. Because if they had made the other decision, something else would have happened.
That's what happens when you try to do something without an outline.
Yes. And so they got through. I mean, it ended as it should have ended, and Rick Remender is still a beast, and I can't wait to see where Matteo Scalera goes next, because that dude should be drawing books. His art is so freaking beautiful, and the colors are beautiful too.
Stupid good.
And yeah, so that's what I have. I do have a shout out for Castro if one of you don't have that book. So.
No, okay. Yeah. Wait, let's pause and hold that and see if one of us does.
That's what I was going to wait and do. So
I don't.
I don't either. So go ahead and do it.
Avengers number 24, Jason Aaron, Stefano Caselli, and Lucina Vecchio. Mike's Castro's loving this book, and I love the Avengers book, and I really like this issue too. So it's just cruising right along. You got the Ghost Riders fighting for power in hell, and then you've got the Cosmic Ghost Rider trying to take over Avengers Mountain. So
the story's good. So I read this too. Caselli, without shitting on his happy. I think it's Caselli that's doing the art on that
some
book.
of the art was a little wanky. Yeah.
Some of the panels really didn't seem to fit in with the rest of them.
Yeah, some of
it was weird.
I think they actually had two artists working.
It felt that way.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. The story's great. Like Jason Aaron's.
Yeah, Aaron's killing the Avengers, but the art was hit and miss throughout this entire issue. I absolutely agree with that. But it was a good issue. The story was fantastic, and
I like this what he's doing with Johnny Blaze, man. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on. It was set up in the Thunderbolts when General Ross was running the Thunderbolts, and Johnny stayed in Hell to take the place of the vacuum that they had left in Hell. So yeah, it's spinning out of that, and right now they've got Johnny as kind of a bad guy. Hard to see, hard to tell.
The person who
we don't know his motivation. So
yeah,
I'ma be your motivation.
Okay, why don't you go on, Matt, before Caleb sings some more for us?
I thought the shout out that we had to do was the Punisher Kill Crew.
Well, I haven't read that, so I can't do that.
Okay, yeah, I just thought we were supposed to bring attention to it because it's the best thing that's ever happened to him.
Check that one off the list.
Yeah. So
I'm not reading that book. Are you reading that?
No, I'm not reading that book. It's
how are you not reading a Punisher book?
Because it's Punisher in space.
Oh,
and when you take Punisher out of the streets, you lose me.
What about when he's the Cosmic Ghost Rider?
Yeah, he's a Cosmic Ghost Rider too.
What about when that happens?
Yeah, same.
What about when he's Frankencastle? What about that?
This,
I didn't hate the Frankencastle.
all this stuff. I'm like,
Since our theme this week is monsters.
It is monsters.
yeah, no.
What's on your short stack?
That's for other people. So what I did read, Marvel's Captain America number 14 by Ta-Nehisi Coates, Nico Walter, and Matt Milla. So I've liked this series and I liked this issue, but this one felt really weird to me. The tone and the narrative of this just felt off for Steve Rogers.
Yeah, you said that in a text. I feel like it was a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff. I felt like it was Steve kind of poking fun at the ends, because he ended the whole thing with, and she fights like a girl.
Yeah.
So it to me, it was like, all we've got is this deaf chick fighting for us, and she fights like a girl. You're right. The tone was off, but I think it was intentionally so.
Well, yeah, and I assumed it was intentional. It's really weird to read Steve Rogers
talking like an insect.
Talking like that way. Given that you would assume this is tongue in cheek and that he's being ironic, it's just like you don't read a lot of Steve Rogers being that way.
Yeah.
So
you're right. I can see that.
It was weird. I'm reading it, I'm like, what?
But this is also one of the first time we've read Steve Rogers acting as Steve Rogers. So I think Steve Rogers,
that is true. He's not Cap.
Yeah, he's very much the type of person that when he's in that uniform, he considers himself on the job. So you never see Steve Rogers really acting relaxed. Very few times, especially not in the action of fighting, because it's always Captain America. Right now he's just fighting as Steve Rogers, so I think he's giving himself a little bit of a leeway, a little bit of a leash there too. He doesn't feel like his actions are inherently
tied to the nation.
Right, tied to the government.
He's not representing the nation.
Right, so he's acting on his own accord, and I think that might be, and this is also one of those situations like there's no context in text, so you need a sarcasm font at some point.
Yeah. But that means I assumed it was sarcasm. It's just
was fucking amazing.
Yeah, and I liked it. It's just it was weird.
Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. At first, I didn't realize it was Steve talking.
I
was like, who's talking?
That's what I thought too. Yeah. So that was an interesting issue. I read it twice. Because of that, I was like, I'm gonna go reread this.
I very rarely read a comic book twice in the same week, unless we're gonna.
Really?
Talk about it.
If something, if either it's extraordinary, like the X-Men, X-Men stuff,
the Powers of X and House of X stuff,
or if it's just something is like I'm like, okay, I don't think
something didn't connect.
Maybe I didn't digest that correctly.
That's fair.
I'll go back and reread it. But also, I went back and read. I always buy the True Believers reprints.
Yeah.
And I read the True Believer reprint of Incredible Hulk 347. This was.
That up.
You did. Yep. So, written by Peter David, pencils by Joe Purvis, and then Mike and Valerie Gostovich were inks, and Peter Scosi on letters. So this was the reprint of the first appearance of Joe Fixit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are y'all familiar with this?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'd never read the first appearance.
I haven't read the first appearance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, interesting.
Yeah.
Half the issue is him conversing with a prostitute in his Vegas hotel room.
That's awesome.
And then it gets interrupted because he has to go intimidate some people.
Yep.
And then he goes back to the prostitute. I was like,
you gotta love Gangster Hulk anyway.
Yeah, so, it was really something. I was like, okay, this is how they're doing this.
So I know that Patch and Joe Fixit were kind of a team for a while, right? Yeah. So
those 3 issues of that original Wolverine run are some of my favorite ever.
First appearance of Patch and
and
Wolverine as Patch. Yeah.
Joe Fixit shows up in town. Their interaction is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's Joe Buscema.
Right.
I've reread those 3 issues. I don't know how many times in my life.
And that's in the miniseries, or is that in the first Wolverine?
No, that was in the first monthly run.
Gotcha.
Was that Joe or Sal?
That was Joe.
Was it? Okay.
John. Excuse me. John.
John.
Yeah, just Sal.
We're just going to start saying Buscema because we have this problem every time one of them comes up.
I definitely do. Because I am not a fan of Sal Buscema's Incredible Hulk. His work is good. His quality, but his choices on how he draws the Hulk's face drives me crazy.
See, he's amazing to me, but I also do that under the filter of I'm a huge Hulk mark. Yeah. So there's very few, I'm more inclined to like bad art on the Hulk just because it's the Hulk than I am. Obviously I'm gonna say it's bad art when it's bad art, but
it's not bad art. I'm not saying it's bad art. I'm talking about his choices. The way he draws the Hulk's face drives me crazy. But
he drew him a little bit more Frankensteinian. Was that?
No, it was not even that. He just, first of all, he draws this god awful haircut. I mean, it is like, it's like this really bad mop of, and it's so
was
distracting.
It like Lou Ferrigno hair?
No, it's worse. It's just,
I don't remember this.
It's so
I
bad.
need to go back and
It's
read that
distracting.
one,
It's so bad. And his face, it's just everything from the neck up on Sal Buscema's Hulk has always driven me nuts.
Wrecked up from the neck up.
Yeah, yeah. But John Buscema's Hulk is like, I think is the best. I think is just the best.
I'm a big Bob McLeod mark when it comes to the Hulk too. I think his Hulk is amazing.
Yeah, when there's a lot. I mean, Ron Limbs was great. Sure. Anyway, so the third book I read, I want to talk about that. I read was DC's Action Comics 1015. Brian Bendis, Simon Krodansky, your favorite guy, Caleb.
Fuck that guy.
And Brad Anderson. Yeah, man.
I say that. No, don't fuck. I'm sure he's a good guy. His art's booty though. I don't see how you look at it, man.
It wasn't. It had some problems with it this issue.
Some problems.
Yeah, I was like,
Is this Action? You said?
Yeah, Action Comics. Yeah, this one was good. Naomi showed up, and this is a character I am not familiar with.
I almost got it just because of the cover of the book.
Yeah, I saw it. The cover was nice.
Yeah. So it was good. Bendis, but I'm still into Bendis writing Batman. Just does not feel right. Doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I don't. Bendis is kind of too happy writing for Batman.
Bendis is writing the perfect books for Bendis right now. Yeah. These like Superman, like he really gets that. He's really nailing it.
Justice Society when it comes out, I think will be all right.
Yeah.
It's just
Legion.
Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, he's writing Batman like a guy in a Batman costume. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not Bruce Wayne.
It's not.
It's somebody cosplaying Batman.
It's a guy in a Batman costume. Yeah. It's just the feel is not there.
Well, without getting on a Bendis tear, but I'm going to go ahead and step there a little bit. I feel like he writes a lot of his characters the same. They all kind of have the same.
I can see that.
They all have the same dialogue styles.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
He wrote Peter Parker a little too long, so now he writes everybody a little snarky.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. A lot of his young kids feel the same. Yeah. Like anytime he's trying to write a young person, and I say that he writes young people really well.
He does,
but he writes like one sect of young people really well.
Yes.
I feel like there's not a lot of
snarky young people.
Yeah.
There's not a broad swath of personality there.
Speaking of Batman, did y'all read what Tynion said how he's gonna write the Batman series?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, was this ever a fucking breath of fresh air? In his view, and the way he's going to write it, is a horror book with detective stories. Fucking thank you very much.
I was hoping for a romance story.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm the only one who doesn't want to listen to more goddamn banter about how close these people want to be.
Come on, Bat.
Fuck.
Let's go, Cat.
Oh, Bat.
Let's go, Bat.
Love you, Bat. Cat. Love Cat. Bat. Cat.
Okay, but
you mean so much, Cat. Bat. Lat. Bat. Sun.
Cat, Bat.
Here I am, Batman, spending a day in the fucking sun because I'm Batman. God damn it!
But he's not Batman. He's Bruce Wayne in that. Like there's a human story there. So besides the fact that you're shitting on one of the best Batman runs of all time, I want to like isn't
I'm squatting over that and emptying my.
I'm only talking about one issue.
Yeah, I'm just giving Matt shit. But I mean, isn't what Tynion's describing just Detective Comics? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to like preemptively knock the dude, and I'm looking forward to Tynion's run on Batman because I think Tynion's a great writer.
I think
But isn't I'm going to write horror stories with detectives? Okay, so you're writing Detective Comics. That's what Detective Comics is. So, like, even if you're reading it right now with what's going on in Detective Comics, with it's really focusing around Mr. Freeze right now. It's a horror story tied into this You're the Villain stuff with detectives.
He busted that dude's head right off.
Yeah, like that
was pretty awesome.
So I mean, and I 100% get that you're looking forward to it, but still, I got to say, like, it's just all right. So you're writing Detective Comics, like you're not reinventing the wheel on that one.
No, but that's what Batman should be.
Yeah. I mean, Batman doesn't need to be reinvented. That's what's going on right now. I roll.
No, I don't.
Reinventing Batman as a love story.
I can't second that statement.
Oh my god!
Because Batman's been written several ways in several different things, and like I think that's one area that he should be written in. But I can't co-sign the fact that he shouldn't ever have a human element.
I don't need a co-signer.
You're like, I love this man. My credit's fine, motherfucker.
I love this banter. No, I mean, I'm good for that concept. We're gonna still get what King's doing over in the Batman Catwoman
For sure.
book.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be good. We're
It
going
is.
to have good bat stories.
Good bat
That's all
stories
that
all
matters.
around.
Yes.
All right, well, was that your short stack?
That's my short
I
stack.
felt like he had like 8 of them.
He did. He cheated this week. He tried to pass it off as news, but he was actually just bullshitting. So this week, fun fact, I almost fucked up this week. I spent all week until 5 o'clock this morning thinking that our book of the week was Strike Force #1.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, because I have not read Strike Force #1.
And
man.
so then I go back and look at text messages while I'm looking at our show notes and the outline in preparation. I'm like, oh, that's not what our book of the week is. But I did read Strike Force #1. It's by Teenie Howard, Herman Peralta, Jordi Belair. I'd give this book, if I'm grading it, I'd say like a 2 out of 5. Not that we really do grading systems on here. Good story, not great dialogue. The art was actually nice. I like. I think it's Herman Peralta. I enjoy his style. I think it lends itself well to that type of story. I was surprised though. I'm normally a big Jordi Belair fan when it comes to the coloring. I thought this was a very poor coloring job.
I got this book as well, and when I get new books that are new series, that I haven't been on, is I'm deciding what pile to put it in for my read or just collect pile. I go and I flip through it, and I read the first page or two, and I flipped through, and it just didn't.
I was not expecting an Eisner Winter colorist to be the weak link in this chain. Not that so I'd love to go out there and find out for yourself, but
yeah,
it's just kind of surprising. I also, speaking of books ending this week, Bronze Age Boogie wrapped up, and it's a 6-issue series from Ahoy Comics, and it's by Stuart Moore, Alberto Ponticelli, and Julia Brusco.
You've been enjoying the Ahoy stuff.
I love the Ahoy stuff. I think like Ahoy is one of my favorite publishers out there right now, just because of the way they format stuff. But this book is really cool because it takes all the elements of basically the 70s comics, kung fu, blaxploitation, sci-fi, and it wraps it up into one story. And much in the same way that you got your surprise at the end of it, because all of these are not like they do them in seasons, but I was not expecting this to go any further than 6 issues. And it said, hey, like we're fixing to come out with another story that's based around this, basically this. He's kind of like Detective Chimp. He's literally a simian that like has a human mentality and is a detective and is really like chain smoking and kind of sexually obscure. But it's going to be a time jumping thing.
Sexually obscure.
Oh yeah,
chain smoking chimp, detective chimp.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, his key role in this is like there's some time travel stuff going involved.
So he's a time traveler.
Yes, and the next arc of this, or at least the next thing they're going to put forward in Bronze Age Boogie, is going to be him like being a time cop. So
this sounds like Bendis wrapping up a Iron Man book.
No, this is no. This is on
Bendis. Its way to DC.
This is Bendis after like a long series of depression and reading old school detective novels and like chain smoking cigars.
That's awesome.
No, it's rad. The art in this is beautiful. Alberto Ponticelli just doing an amazing job. Yeah, so go check that out. I'm sure they're going to put it out in a collected edition soon. And then not everything I read is new, so I dive back into some older stuff. And last night, in fact, I got started on the second volume, the second omnibus, if you will, the legendary series Lone Wolf and Cub. I read through the first omnibus not too long ago. This, of course, is by Keizu Koke and Goseki Kojima. And the second story in this is a story called The Virgin and the Whore, and it's fantastic.
Sounds amazing.
It's not what you would think it would be. But the cool thing about this...
Is the Virgin a whore?
She's being sold to a brothel.
Gotcha.
And the cool thing about this entire series is the factual basis that it's built on. The way that the feudal Japanese legal system governed the brothels of Japan is insane. They literally had rules set up with who could run it, what they could do, how they had to act. Like they governed it as an agency. And that history is put on display in this narrative in a way that is just masterful.
I think the world would be better if brothels were governed as an agency.
Well, they weren't necessarily very accommodating to the actual women.
To the women,
who were working in the brothels.
I get that.
But it's still like the way that they utilize that in
I'm
the
saying
story.
the concept may not be a bad
On that subject, I watched a documentary about a brothel that operated in Mississippi. First, this black woman ran a brothel in Mississippi for 60 years.
I read this book. It's called House of Mystery.
Mississippi Madam on Amazon Prime.
I'll have to check that one out.
Fascinating.
So the cool thing about this, of course, you know, the guy's an assassin, and I'm going to go watch that. No, I'm not. That's a lie. You know, he's an assassin. So why is he there? He's hired to do a job. Well, part of what they do in this culture is they take the clothes from the dead sex workers, dead prostitutes, if you will, and some of the hair, and they make them little Kachina dolls. And he's literally been hired to go kill the Kachina dolls. And so that's why he rolls in. That's why he's there to protect this young girl. And it's just, man, it's stunning.
Wow,
so,
awesome.
Well, all right, we ready to talk about this family meal? Break into the main dish?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question before we go on.
Okay.
Anybody else read Deadly Class?
I did not.
Are you on Deadly Class?
No, I'm not.
Are you on it, Matt?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind. It was amazing, but it was just I wanted to have a brief conversation.
No,
it's all good.
That's a series that I missed out on,
Yeah.
and like obviously I'm very much aware of it, very much in the zeitgeist of things,
out there,
just
but
not
yeah.
not consumed it yet, and it's on my list of things I
sure.
want to read. I will probably end up buying the omnibus when it comes out at some point.
It was very metal. That issue is a very Matt book.
Yeah, I feel like I missed the boat not being on that book. It's one of those I missed out on.
It was a Swedish heavy metaler killing people with a battle axe in a church.
It's a slice of life.
That's a love story for Matt.
Yeah. That's why I was wondering if Matt had read it.
For the record, I'm not for violence against churches. In real
This
life.
church was a cult that had a fake church.
Well, that
you
makes it
walked
okay
into.
then.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was a sex cult.
I could
Got
drop
it.
a very, very in poor taste joke on
Yeah.
that, but I'm not going to. Not going to. So remember when I told you earlier that I spent all week thinking that the wrong book was our book of the week?
Yeah.
I had to get the book off Comixology this morning. So shout out to Comixology for being there for me when I needed it. So if I'm not mistaken, unless I was just wrong twice, our book of the week this week is The Inferior Five, number 1.
That is the book I
Yes.
read. So.
That's what I read.
Awesome. See, this is why notes are important. This is why you can't do a show without notes. Can we just tell the folks what we're talking about on that? So a little bit of behind the scenes. Matt has this idea of he wants to do what he calls a quote-unquote chaos episode every once in a while, where we don't come in with an outline, where we don't have any type of set structure. We just have like a prompt, and then we just devolve into conversation, which I think is cool, but also me being the type of person that I am, it makes my skin crawl.
I'm honestly surprised you're not laying in the floor twitching
I
right
kind
now.
of hyperventilated a little bit. Because, like I said before on the show, I've got spreadsheets for spreadsheets. Everything, I'm not necessarily the most organized person, but I love to have a structure of things. And
I
just the
try
idea of
spreadsheets.
coming in blind, it makes me scared. It gives me anxiety.
Well, you could, if you need a spreadsheet, just print one out while we're talking. You can do that thing where
Just fill it out,
you just
yeah.
free draw,
Just fill in the
like the clairvoyants do.
Just color in the cells.
Clairvoyance.
All right, so in The Inferior Five, number 1, fresh out of DC this week, Plot and Pencils by
Actually,
Keith.
last week.
Was it last
Yeah,
week? Okay.
it was last week. It was illegal.
Plot and Pencils by Keith Giffen, Plot and Script by Jeff Lemire, Inks by Michelle Delecki, Colors by Hi-Fi, and Letters by Rob Leigh. Before we get into it, just to let everybody know if we thought this was good, bad, or otherwise, I thought this was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
loved this book.
Yeah, it's good.
I had zero complaints about this book.
It's good.
The art, the colors, the story. It was Lemire hitting a home run on the first issue of a new series.
It really was. I can't get enough of it. So you want to tell them? We want to tell them what it's about.
Yeah.
Let's tell them what it's about. All right.
Please
so,
don't make me, because I didn't write it out.
No, I did. I'm
Okay,
good.
great.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I've got my bullet points. Just going to crack my knuckles. Let's get into this. All right. So welcome to Dangerfield, Arizona, where things are about to get really weird. Our story opens up just outside the city with a young girl who's running through the desert. She's barefoot, she's covered in dirt and grime, and she's running from something. You don't really, who knows what it could be. And that something catches up with her. All right. And it's, like I said, we don't really know what it is. It looks like a boy with a little burlap sack over his head, and it's marked with a big red X where his face should be. And I mean, honestly, it's kind of like some whack ass attempt at a Scarecrow cosplay.
Yeah.
But which is what I thought.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of those words.
And it's saying nursery rhymes.
Hello, fellow youngins. Shake my hand. And you later find out that the ex-boy is called Billy. So I'm just going to go ahead and just call him that while I tell you guys about this. And
Billy's telling us nursery rhymes.
He is, in the weirdest way ever. The girl begs him to let her go. And that, she's not going to tell anyone what he is. And then, like Craig said, and what is literally one of the most terrifying uses of a nursery rhyme since maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, Billy recites the Three Little Kittens poem to her. And then poof.
And they lost their mittens.
They did.
And they were in trouble,
Everyone.
as was this girl.
Very, very much so. Because at an exact moment, man, just like lightning from the sky, zap, bam, pow, she's dead. She's gone. And there's this little bitty poof of smoke rising up in the desert from where they used to be. A little mushroom cloud, if you will, sending smoke signals. It didn't work out well for her at all.
It did not.
Back in town, we meet who is going to be one of the focal characters of this story. And it's this kid named Justin. And Justin and his mom are new in town, which reminds me of a really great joke I have to tell you guys later. I'm new in town. For those of you who enjoy stand-up comedy might know what I'm talking about. They just moved to Dangerfield, Arizona from Metropolis, and things are not going great with Justin. He's, like I said, he's the new kid. He's got no friends. He misses his city. His mom has a really shitty haircut, which is probably the crux of his problems.
Yeah, his mom.
The haircut is in my notes as well.
It's so bad.
It's not a good haircut. And beyond all of that, kind of the underlying theme of the entire thing, behind all the family and adolescent drama is this underlying cause of why they moved to Dangerfield in the first place. And it's because Justin's dad is dead. He died during DC's invasion. Like, you guys remember this, the invasion of Metropolis by the Dominators. It was like a late 80s story, written by Keith Giffen. Bill Mantlo helped him out with a little bit of that. Todd McFarlane did some of the pencils on that, as I look at Matt, because he's the Todd. He's the Todd stan for the group. And
you gonna take that?
Not really.
Not really?
Right, he was, now if you'd asked me when I was, 12 years old, oh yeah, Todd McFarlane could do no wrong for a 12-year-old Matt Trogdon, and I will fight you in my sandbox over that. But no,
not anymore.
Nah, Todd's personality is what I have.
I can see
issues
that.
with.
Yeah.
He's a bit abrasive.
Have either of you read the invasion story?
I have not.
Mm-mm.
If I have,
apparently it's still an ongoing though, with 37 issues.
Well, in this world, in this comic book world, it is. I haven't read. At least I can't remember if I've read it, but I know it's a 3-issue series, and I may see if I need to go. Like, I may go try to pick those up because I'm actually curious. Like, this
is
issue,
it an actual tie-in to this, or is it just a reference to it? That's what I don't know at this point.
This is supposed to take place after that.
Yeah, right after. This is going back in time. But you know who does remember the invasion story? You know who remembers it?
In this book?
Lisa.
Yeah.
The next kid that we're introduced to in this book. And she's hanging out in this comic shop owned by a guy named Vlad. And she's reading the invasion
obviously
story.
a vampire.
He's got some issues. He's got some shit going on. And
his name Vlad, first of all. That's your first sign.
In this world, the invasion story is the second best comic on the shelf, second only to Action Comics, and that's really how you know we're in a fantasy land, because Action Comics is the best selling of all time. This obviously is some bizarro world shit. So, Lisa,
I think Vlad's a symbolism for local comic book stores.
100%.
Sucking the life out of their customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very possible.
Absolutely.
Matt, we're totally playing. We love our.
Just kidding.
Lisa's not feeling this book at all. And I mean, some of those same old arguments that we hear all the time in the real world, a very metatextual moment. She doesn't know why her comics have to reflect the real world. Like I said, in this book, the invasion was real. This really happened. So why does it got to show up in her funny books? Why is this metatextual there with its fifis and shit? She's kind of, now that I think about it, she's kind of mad.
Don't you dare.
This girl is fantastic.
Oh, I love her, man. And this whole thing was just in case you had forgotten for 5 seconds that this was a Jeff Lemire book. This was what this is like. Nope, I'm still Jeff Lemire. Also, like you said, Vlad the comic guy's vomiting blood. That's totally not weird. Anywho, our boy
he's got bad gums.
That's what he says.
This excuse is sensitive gums.
I hope those books are bagged, man, because they're gonna not be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Sorry, we keep cutting you off.
no, you're
man.
good. Our boy Justin has walked to the local record store. You know how there's record stores out in the desert, right? Like, yeah, he has walked to the local record store where local creepy neighbor guy Vance has followed local culturally relevant white girl Teresa, who's not impressed with being followed at all around. In fact, she punches local creepy white guy neighbor boy Vance. And while all this is happening, there's these two narrators who are having this kind of back and forth while they're tracking the kids, and they've given these kids labels. 5.1, there's 5.4, and they talk about 5.5, which is presumably the girl from the intro that got poofed out in the desert, just out of existence by Billy X. And so what you're finding out is there's something is off with this town. There's X's, like the ones that was painted on Billy's mask. They've been showing up on houses. They've been being marked. And people have been disappearing. There's this local guy who the kids all, like, they're kind of looking for. He's just gone. And the narrators, like, at first you're not really sure who these people are. These alien invaders, because, I mean, you're talking about the invasion of these people that are still out there, these overlords. Who are they? But what you kind of, you learn is that the narrators, it feels like to me anyway, they might be good guys. They might be wanting to stop what's going on with these X's and the people.
It's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah, but it's very guarded. But you kind of get the feeling that they want to at least help. And so does Lisa. And Lisa's been noticing these things are amiss. And she knows that Dangerfield isn't, because she's kind of doing this amateur sleuthing, she's found out that Dangerfield isn't the only town that this is happening in. She's discovered that there was this town in Australia that completely got wiped out, and just they found it with nothing but these X's. And she's telling all of this to her totally not an alien or robot gal pal Helen, who so I don't know if you guys, like, Helen speaks like a Twitter bot does when it's trying to carry on a conversation. Like it's just picking up off of markers, and it's just saying some insane absurd shit. And they're going to find out what's happening and what it has to do with this guy that I mentioned earlier who's going to disappear, who's gone, and then they don't know if he's coming back. And his name was Shanker. By the way, if that's totally okay. Like, hi, my name's the Shanker. Watch my kid for me, please.
Yeah, let's hang out.
Meanwhile, all of this is going on. Billy X, I'm calling him Billy X, like I just changed his name. He's struck again, and Justin comes home to find his house covered in X's, and his mom is missing.
Yeah.
And you kind of find out, you kind of know what happened to mom.
I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, mom's totally fine. She's in the kitchen making dinner.
Yeah,
Mom,
I think it's fine.
The bad haircut got her in trouble.
Whoever's controlling Billy is like, "What did you do this time?"
You mean the AIM soldier?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Billy came and got mom, drug her out in the woods, and I don't think mom's gonna make it. So that's the gist of this first issue, setting it up. If it sounds like it's Bizarro World, that's because it's Bizarro World.
But it's so fucking good.
It was. So I know nothing. I have no prior experience with the Inferior Five.
Nor do I.
And so I kind of came into this blind, and like I'm wont to do, I did some Google sleuthing. I looked up what the Inferior Five was. Also a Giffen book that came out. So there's some history there that's not really tied into this.
Right.
This is kind of a blank slate, and Lemire's great about doing things like that. I'm thinking about books that he did over at Marvel with the Sentry. Like, he's great about taking this foundation, this seed, and then blossoming it into something brand new that we have never seen before.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what he's going to do with this book.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have zero knowledge of the Inferior Five other than I own their first appearance.
Yeah.
I don't have any knowledge of the previous stuff, but this, oh my God.
I didn't, this is my first exposure to the Inferior Five, and I didn't do any homework. I wanted to go in this just with a clean slate and see where it takes me. I didn't want any extra insight than the book didn't offer. But man, that town sure looks like a terrible place to live.
Oh yeah, it does.
Holy
Especially
shit.
if you move from Metropolis.
Dude. What's going on with do they have no city workers to clean up that place? It is awful looking. And let's talk about, in the middle of this dump, there's a fine dining restaurant. Did you notice the fine dining restaurant in the middle of this crap? It's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's something, and there's one panel that you can pick up on this, like literally only one panel. I think that this town might be some type of like government controlled town. Because the mom is on the phone when when Justin walks in. She's on the phone and she's like, "Oh, like no, I don't think he suspects anything. Oh, here he comes. I've got to go."
Yeah.
So there's something going on with mom and the connection to this town. Now, obviously, I think it backfires on her because she gets Billy X'd and drug out to the desert. So there's some type of weird government versus science thing.
Yeah, yeah. And the X thing is something that they use when you have a tornado or something, a natural disaster hit a town, is they go through the houses and they're clear. They paint an X on the outside so that they know that somebody's already been through that house so somebody else doesn't go through it.
Right.
So there's a reference there. I don't know what it is yet, but there is a
and you can also
symbolism anyways.
Well, for sure. And you can also go back, if you want to go back and get literally biblical with this, you can think about the Passovers. Because all the X's, at least the ones in Billy's house and the ones you see, they're at least some shade of red.
Yeah.
And there's this, obviously idea of the Passover. You go to the Australian town and there's just nobody. It's very...
well, they said 2 kids survived that.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And that they actually moved to Dangerfield.
Okay.
In her study, she's like, those 2 kids moved to this town.
I missed that little note.
So in Lisa's kind of cave thing that she's working out her little shack that she's got built in the dump.
Yeah, it's
dude, it's so
the whole town looks like a dump.
I mean, it looks like an incredibly bad place to live. I'm like, of course, I'm sitting there thinking, what do these people do for a living? What's the employer in this town? I'm like, this is awful.
This is the same thought I have every time I drive through a little town in Arkansas. What do these people do for a living?
Yeah,
they can't even get internet out here.
Yeah, they farm. You're like, because I always think farm when because I drive through a lot of small towns. Like, these people are farming or they're driving. But man, so first interior shot of the house. Did anybody recognize who that is? Who Dad is?
Is it Clark?
No, absolutely not. Let me show you exactly who Dad is.
Oh wow!
It's Henry fucking Rollins.
that is Henry Rollins on the mantle.
No shit.
So wow.
That is in the interior page of the Wait album.
See, this is why we love you on the show, Matt.
I was like, I
didn't even catch that.
No,
when you just showed me.
I know I knew I was going to be the only one.
Yeah,
because I immediately recognized that picture.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Giffen drew Henry fucking Rollins.
I went back and looked. Jeff Lemire drew Henry fucking Rollins. Jeff Lemire, plot and pencils.
Wow.
So they're just giving.
Oh, excuse me. No, you're right. Keith Giffen.
It was Giffen. I was like, Giffen.
In the end of the credits, in the post story, he draws it.
That post story was good too. We should throw a little bit of love that way. I enjoyed that because that post story was more of a throwback to the original Inferior Five.
And I think it's going to tie into this eventually.
Part of me wonders if the voices that are narrating, the voices that we're talking,
are the old Inferior Five.
Yeah, and they're going to come in because you see these elements like there's a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
There's like what they call agents on the ground.
Because they show some of them, right? The one turns into a bird of some sort and flies off. You have Smoking Joe.
Yeah.
Or Old Man Smoker or something like that.
Smoky Joe.
Yeah. So, you see some of these potential people that are walking through town that they're introduced because they said that, he hasn't said any, Smoking Joe hasn't said anything yet or whatever. So
yeah, but they're, like I said, they're agents on the ground and they're tracking some sort of energy signature.
Yeah.
That again, that like spiked when 5.5 or whatever got poofed out of existence.
Yeah, whatever complaints you had about the last Lemire book we did.
Oh, the first issue? Yeah, no, I have none of those here.
Grounded you immediately and had you hooked. I'm signed up for it. I hope you guys are going to sign up for it.
I'm probably going to.
Yeah, I want to see where this goes.
It's interesting to me. So normally in the big two, when I've seen Lemire on a book, it hasn't been like I can't pinpoint what exactly is different about this to me. Number one, Giffen's style in this book, and I don't know if it was the actual style or the colors. This was surprising. This was surprising art to see in a DC book.
Yeah.
So this is a chance for Lemire to take something that's not a known entity, or and be able to refresh it, like you said earlier.
Right.
Whereas what he's written in the past has been like Green Arrow,
right?
Well, Green Arrow is still in the current zeitgeist of things, so you can't really go a whole new path with Green Arrow without some sort of reboot for some reason.
No, it's kind of like what Tom and Mitch did with Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this is giving him a clean slate to play in the DC universe. This would be. I would love to see him do Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Doom Patrol fan.
I'm not either, but I would love to see Jeff Lemire's take.
He could make it one.
Yeah.
I want him to go over to Marvel and give me a D-Man story.
And yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, I love Gerard Way.
Yeah,
But that book didn't do anything for me. So
especially because it doesn't come out on time.
Yeah.
But just back to my earlier point, like, I really don't know if it was Michelle Delecki's colors on this, but this felt like way more of a quote unquote Lemire book, like something you don't see from the big two,
for
something
sure.
You see from drawn in Quarterly, those type of stories.
It looks like the stuff he did when he was doing his own stuff at Vertigo,
right?
DC.
Or like his new book that just came out. Like this looks like. What was the hockey book that he did? Essex County. Like this is more of a refined version of that. And again, he didn't do the art on this.
County hockey book.
It was like it's obviously a more reformed style, but you can really see that Giffen and Michelle Delecki
Lemire style.
Yeah, they really did, and that's interesting to see in a big two book,
especially for artists of Giffen's name to mimic somebody else's style.
Well, and that's
and not necessarily a style, but to kind of channel that energy that Lemire puts out.
No, for sure, and it's cool seeing some of these old heads do that, and that's kind of what I had that same idea when I was reading the last, like I said, the Berserker Unbound book that we did, where I didn't really appreciate the first issue as much as I did the subsequent issues that have come out since. But Mike Deodato, old hat, man, dude's been in the business forever. Dude's worked like he's got a name. Yeah. He is still refining and transforming his style. Like that style in that book is not indicative of former Deodato work.
For sure.
And a lot of people don't like Deodato. And, subjectively thinking about these things aside, it's still really neat to see these old hats still learning day to day. Every book is a new opportunity to refine and develop and transform their shit, man. Like, that's cool to me.
I agree. And I think that what happens is you see a lot of these guys that have like a 10-year career. Mm-hmm. And then they do the convention circuit forever because they have never adapted their style to the current changes. So it's really great to see these older guys that are adapting their styles because they're still talented people.
No, for sure.
And
that's when we talk about, and it's not throwing shade per se, but when we talk about people like, okay, for instance, Jim Lee, people, for instance, Rob Liefeld, these quintessential 90s guys. I could throw Eric Larson in that mix too. Their style has not changed. Like the line work has not changed. Nothing about them has changed in 3 decades now. Mm-hmm. And that's why they've kind of fallen out of favor. I mean, they're still big names, but they're not putting out books that's pushing the medium by any
Jim
means.
Lee can't meet timelines.
Well, there's also that. Well, not really in his defense, but as an addendum, Jim Lee's like busy being a publisher.
Yeah, for sure.
Second largest comic.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
he's moved away from art at this point.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, man. It's good seeing Lemire just work on these things. Like this book's got some heart, and that's one of my. You judge a book what makes a book worth reading. It's got to have some heart, and this feels like this has got a lot of heart.
Well, when you read as many comics as I do in a week, and a new story starts, like I said, I flip through it first of all to see if I'm going to be interested in reading it. Mm-hmm. I'll just flip through it and see if it catches me. Second of all, if that first issue doesn't catch me, most of the time it just goes to my collect pile.
Right.
Yeah.
And, if it's a miniseries, I'll collect it or I'll cancel it, if it's an ongoing. But you've got to catch me in that first or second issue at the very latest, or I'm just out. I've got too much to read.
For sure. Because there's a lot of good stuff. We live in an age of great comics.
Yeah. Well, if they don't catch you in the first or second issue, they're not doing their job.
Right.
Faux show.
Right.
Well, you guys feel like we've covered the ground we need to cover? Feel like we've done it justice?
We got Henry Rollins in there.
We did we got a surprise Rollins.
How about that, huh?
that puts the book up another notch for me. You stuck Rollins in.
That stopped at that panel, and I'm like, what? I
did not even catch that.
Yeah.
The Rollins.
I didn't like it. To me, it looked like it was a picture of Clark Kent. Like in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, look for other because they mentioned Metropolis, and then I see this picture of and honestly, now I've never realized how much Henry Rollins' bone structure kind of looks like Clark Kent if you just draw the lines, but it does, and that's really weird for me. I
wonder if she was really married to a Henry Rollins character, or if she imagined it all.
Is Henry Rollins going to be a DC Universe?
Oh my God, Henry Rollins is in DC
canon
now.
Black Flag is canon.
Yes, please.
So, love it. Well, all right. So one of the cool things we like to end our month with now, we revamped the structure a little bit per se, but we're keeping this aspect is we get some really great questions from the people who listen to this show, the people who are in our collective sphere, so to speak, of geek culture. Inevitably, because we have a podcast, they always reach out to us like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And part of what we've done to kind of funnel all of those questions into one space or at least make it a usable tool is we have our Facebook group. And I know I pitch this every episode and all the time. And that's for no other fact other than like I like to meet my fellow comic book readers. I like to interact with my fellow lovers of sequential art. And this is a great place to do it. And it's always fun. And so what we do is we put up these little announcements that ask for questions. And what we've decided to do going forward is come up with a theme for each month. And get our listeners to ask. You can ask us any question about that theme. All it's got to do is be tangentially related to that theme. It can cover the complete zeitgeist of media. You can ask us movies questions. You can ask us book questions. You can ask us magazine questions, comic questions, video game questions. It can literally cover anything. It's just got to be related to that category, which I think is a really cool way to get people on a similar thread, and it funnels us down. So part of what we decided to do this month is monsters, and I forget which one of us came up with the theme. Did I?
You did.
Okay. And I think Matt has the next one. Matt's going to pitch the next theme to us, and so we got some really, really. Well, he kind of already did. So I'm setting him up.
I panicked for a second. I'm like, oh God, what was my recommendation?
What was it? What was
Henry Rollins.
We should totally
comic books with Henry Rollins.
Dude, punk rock can be a category, man. Punk rock could be a great category. But like I said, this month our category, and maybe it should be in the future.
Somebody will mention Green Day, and I'll lose my shit.
That's why you're not on the Facebook page. I can field that one for you. Like I said, this month the category was monsters. We had some really good questions. So you guys ready to dive into them?
Yep.
All right. So our first question comes from Mr. Frank Lanza. Great dude. We appreciate the question, man. And he said, "What was the first monster to truly scare the crap out of you as a kid?" And I love this because like what really sets in your brain and as a kid, as a young person, really does kind of shape your life in a certain way of what terrifies you. So Craig, kick us off on this one, man. What was the first monster to scare the shit out of baby Craig?
So I consider Michael Myers to be a monster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's essentially the boogeyman.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was the first Halloween movie.
All right.
That was the first movie I remember watching about 10 years old. And I'd seen horror movies before that.
Mm-hmm.
But usually watching them with a parent or, not really paying attention type thing. But yeah, watching Halloween about 10 years old on HBO and just being scared shitless. And every Halloween, of course, it was on.
Yeah.
And I loved it, but it scared the shit out of me.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine, this is going to make you guys chuckle, I think, but I'm being one.
If you say Lion King.
No. But I am being 1,000% serious when I say this, and it is an animated feature. The first monster that ever solidly terrified me, that gave me nightmares, was the smoke monster from Fern Gully. As a child, I watched that, and you've got this smoke demon that's, it's, if you want to see a live action version of it, it's the thing that they ripped off in Avatar. But it's this monster that comes out of these machines that are destroying the trees. And it's just a beast. It's an all-consuming beast, and it's snarky, and it's evil, and it's hateful. And little baby
Caleb.
Caleb.
America.
It is. Little baby Caleb. And this, again, shaped my life. I legitimately had nightmares for like a week as a child. Like my mother reminds me of this. She's like, haha, remember when you got scared by that smoke demon? And I'm like,
as we will too. You should know.
I'm like, haha, remember when baby Caleb tried to warn you about global warming? And, but no, literally scared the shit out of me. And I had a runner-up. Did you guys have a runner-up on this? Or was it just kind of
I actually
singular?
do,
I
because
didn't.
we break the rules.
I struggled with this one, so I'll have one and one only.
What's yours?
Okay.
The only thing I can remember that really scared me as a kid was Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
And because I guess what scared me so much is the concept of this entity coming after you when you're absolutely your most vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I can pin on that.
Yeah.
But I struggled to come up with that because I don't remember a whole lot.
Because Matt's not
I just,
scared of shit.
I just don't remember anything affecting me hard enough to remember it as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I could come up with. And I do remember this freaking me out, man.
It was the first one, especially was
It's unsettling.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can't control what happens when you're asleep.
Yeah.
and you have to sleep.
Yeah.
It's not like you can hide from it.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, meth users are trying their best.
Yes.
So, what was your runner-up? I'm curious.
My runner-up was the zombies from Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I was very young. I remember seeing this in a hotel room with my mom. We were, as most of you know, probably by now, I grew up on the carnival. So it was after we'd worked all day. And, I didn't work, but it was after my parents had worked all day. We went back to the hotel room. And, you only had 3 channels then. So you got whatever was on at, 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was Night of the Living Dead. And,
that's to this day, that's not a film for children.
No, but I remember watching the naked zombie eating the rat, still vividly from my childhood. Now, I've seen the movie many, many times since then, but I vividly remember that scene.
So Caleb's parents were very guarded of Caleb. So I did not get to grow up watching it didn't work out.
Are we talking in third person now? Is that what we do?
Taking a moment. My parents were, they really did control the media that I got to consume. So I did not get to.
Mine obviously did too.
I didn't get to watch the horror movies that other people were getting to watch. Again, parents are very, very Christian. Dad's a minister. So anything that had cuss words was not allowed in the house, all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So the things that really terrified me as a child were, like, a lot of people think of them as wholesome things. My mother took me to Disney on Ice as a child, which was super cool, right? Like Disney on, like, princes, princesses, people skating. I'm gay, so I was mesmerized by ice skaters, number one. That's just kind of a thing that we have to do. It's in the rules. Like, we get our own gay outline. You have to love ice skating. But this was in Barton Coliseum, and they got to the Little Mermaid section of it. Who's the big bad in Little Mermaid? Ursula, right? Like Ursula they had put together, using monster truck technology, a 4-story, and I'm assuming 4-story, like almost to the
It looked that big.
almost to the roof of Barton Coliseum, this giant machine that they had kept part of the ice rink partitioned off, and it was this giant Ursula that, when they moved it out, and it rolled, tentacles came out and waved over the crowd. It was looking back on it, it's technologically amazing. It was a feat that they did this. But for I was 5 or 6, seeing
I'm sure it scared the shit out of you at 5 or 6.
This big titted tentacle monster, the size of a house,
that definitely
reaching out.
Tentacle porn scared Caleb.
Tentacle porn.
We now know why Caleb turned gay.
That is not true, because now I just go for the biggest tentacle in the room. So, all right. So, 2-parter warning for this next question, and this comes from our brother Steve Murray, who you can hear speak eloquently, just as he does on the Comic Book Bears podcast that he is on, that he hosts, and you should. And he wants to know what type of monster genre. And I'm going to read it the way he wrote it. What kind of monster genre cream cheeses your bagel the most? Classic Universal style monsters, kaiju, supernatural, alien creatures, psychopathic humans like Michael Myers. And what's your preferred medium to experience that in? Do you like it in books? Do you like to read about it? You like comics, movies, video games, etc.? Kick us off on this one, Matt.
Mine was this was easy for me. The psychopathic human.
Yeah.
There's those they're the most frightening to me, and those are the things that if I'm having a nightmare, that's what's coming after me. Yeah. Or people like Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. Unstoppable, determined psychopaths are the most frightening
for sure
for me. Darth Vader, Hannibal Lecter, these are my favorite villain / movie monsters without a close second. I love them.
Yeah.
But It's hard to pick a favorite medium, though, man. I mean, I want to say movie, but the thing about comics that can do it so well that movies can't is they can capture the terror in a victim's eyes.
Yeah.
Freeze that terror in more than a movie can. But it's hard for me to pick between movie and comic when it comes to this kind of thing. Because I have so many examples of each one.
For sure. So mine, this was actually pretty easy for me too, because I've always had this fascination for the Universal monsters. Mm-hmm. Always, my whole life. I've loved watching. I mean, they never scared me, but I've always loved watching the Universal monsters, whether it was Abbott and Costello or it was just them on their own or whatever. Just been part of my life pretty much my whole life. My preferred medium for reading any good monster or getting any good monster story is a book. And that's because I promise you my imagination is worse than what they're going to show me on TV. The shit I can dream up in my head is worse than what they're going to show me at the movie theater. But I do agree with what you say about comics, because I almost put it on there as well for the very same reason that you get those, you get that intense moment frozen. Yeah. Where it's just right there in your face.
Right. The pinnacle of fear can be captured in a comic book like it can in no other place.
For sure.
So this one actually, this one was tough for me. Because I started thinking about, okay, so in some level, monster films are connected to the horror genre on just kind of a genetic thing. They don't have to be. Like, you get funny monster movies and stuff, but, there's just kind of a link there. And so I thought about my favorite monster film of all time, but that's not really the monster that scares me the most.
Right.
The monsters that scare me the most are derived out of animals, like nature. So, like, things like Cujo. Things like Jaws. These are I'm terrified.
Both horrifying.
Yeah, reality to me is more terrifying than fiction. And when a horror or when a monster thing links to reality, that is really unsettling to me, because I have dogs. I literally have a 100-pound big ass furry behemoth of a dog who's sweet as shit. Like, he's a good.
So
boy.
was Cujo.
Yeah,
before
he just
got
loves.
rabies.
But if he wanted to, he could rip my throat out. Right. Like. The Birds, the movie The Birds, that's terrifying to me because they look like everyday things. Even sharks. Sharks, giant fish. Like, they're inherently predators, but I don't fear for them, but I should.
Oh, I have irrational fears of sharks.
Yeah, like they're a common
they could
thing
be in
the
that
world.
Swimming pool with me.
They're not fiction. These things aren't fiction, and to me, that is the most terrifying
I blame
thing.
Jaws.
So, yeah, like flat out, like it made people afraid to go in the water
for sure.
And you guys are going to be surprised at this, because normally you would expect me to be like comics or novels, but like my favorite way to consume a monster story is film. Yeah. And inherently,
funny, we all picked a different medium.
Inherently, to me, that's because, again, the link between monsters and horror. I think sound is a major part of the terror experience, and
the music, all of it.
Whether or not it's a fractic sound, whether or not it's like, I think that plays into it, which is, again, funny when you think about my favorite quote-unquote horror movie of all time is the Max Schreck Nosferatu. It's a silent film, but they still have music that plays over that. Like, just because they couldn't record the dialogue, there's still music involved with that. So to me, it's film. Now, that is not my favorite way to consume any genre. Like, most other things, like 90% of other things, I'd rather read than watch it on TV. I think the written word and, again, sequential media can do a better job, but specifically with monsters, I do enjoy watching it. Like Guillermo del Toro does a really good job with this.
Del Toro does beautiful, absolute beautiful horror. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go in there and you're just absolutely astounded by the cinematography.
Look at the Hellboy. Look at Shape of Water, which is not necessarily a monster movie, but it's a monster movie.
It's a monster movie.
Yeah,
it's not Creature from the Black Lagoon, but it is a monster movie.
Yeah, and to me that gets pulled off the best when you can, when there's motion, like for real motion, when there's sound that ties into it, like that's part of what just makes that experience whole for me.
I really like that all three of us picked a different medium, but we all appreciate all three mediums.
Yeah, it was hard to choose.
Absolutely, because I mean, there's not a wrong answer for that, because consuming it, however you consume it, it affects you. Horror does that as well or better than most other genres to me. It affects you at a core level.
And there's a reason for that I think that actually ties into a question on down the line.
Well, we'll get there when we get there then.
Branching off of Frank Lanza's question, this one, well, fuck, I did something bad and forgot to write down the name of who asked us this question.
Mike Delecki.
Is it Delecki? Okay. Yep. So Mike wants to know, what was the last monster to truly scare you as an adult?
Looking at you, Babadook.
I'll kick us off on this one. Mike Pence. So, in real life, and this is not a new character, but it's the one that has affected me the most in recent years, or not a new idea, and that's the Lovecraft monsters. They're the last thing that I can, as an adult, that has really terrified me. Is the Lovecraft monsters, specifically for what you were talking about a couple of weeks ago, Matt. It's that they're not
the inherent racism.
Well, there's that, but they're not coming down to Earth and invading the planet, and destroying people. They're affecting the brains of people, and this is again you don't know what your neighbors are. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know who you don't know what they are and what's affecting them, and they could snap at any moment, which is really where that stems from. But it's this idea that there are these maniacal, evil, inherently apathetic to life beings that control the universe and that can just reach down and affect the world without actually being a part of the world. They're a causation and not a direct force. That's terrifying to me. That's fundamentally terrifying to me.
Do you ever heard how when H.P. Lovecraft was asked how he defined horror, what his answer was?
No.
Horror is when you go into your backyard and the flowers are singing.
Oh,
that would be horror.
That makes
horrific,
sense.
Yeah.
Or a Disney movie, but yes, which could be horror.
I mean, let's be honest. Most Disney movies are horror. They have horror elements.
A lot of them stem from.
Most of them come from the Grimm fairy tales. Which are, so mine, I have two answers, but it's the same answer. Mm-hmm. It's Silence of the Lambs and The Sixth Sense, and it's for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's the psychological terror that affected me at the core of both of those. Mm-hmm. Sixth Sense isn't really a monster movie, other than it has ghost in it, so I consider it to be.
Yeah.
In Hannibal Lecter, he's a monster all the way through.
Yeah.
And he's scary because he's a guy that'll sit next to you at the opera and then eat you because you were rude to him in some way.
Or you were nice to him.
Or you were over nice to him.
Or he's hungry.
Yeah.
Have a nice Chianti.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You tried to, take his census.
Yeah.
Try to categorize him in some way. Yeah. So to me, while I didn't leave those movies with my heart pumping.
Yeah.
Or the thrill, it was what it does to you when you think about those movies and what they are at the core of them, I think.
Mine, the last movie I watched that creeped me out was The Fourth Kind.
Oh, that was a good one.
I haven't seen that.
Creepy as F, man. I mean, we go down watching it. My wife goes, I think I'm traumatized by that movie. So we go to bed, and I'm laying there, and the whole setting of the movie is, the aliens come while she's in bed, and you never see them. You never see them in the movie. The whole presentation is creepy as hell. So you're laying in bed, and every time you hear something creak, you're like, what? I mean, it creeped my shit out.
I forgot about that movie. Yeah. It's really a lot better than it's ever gotten recognition for. Yeah. But it's really good. It's an alien. It's supposed to be based off of a real city in Alaska where they had X amount. I mean, half of the population ended up disappearing.
Yeah.
And it's all attributed to aliens. And it's
the presentation in that movie.
Isn't it Mia Jovanovic?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's creepy.
Yeah. It's done really well. And the end of that, wasn't it you see the house and the shit's happening in the house and there's guns going off and stuff, or am I misremembering that?
It's been too long.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was creepy as fuck though. There was
and they mix in some,
lost footage,
alleged found footage, and it's not spoilers. It's not real.
Yeah,
but it's you don't know that going in. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah. I mean, it just flips your shit, man.
Yeah. Paranormal was another one like that.
Yeah.
Really creeped me the fuck out.
Trying to look up pictures of the fourth kind. I'll have to put it on my list of things to check out at some point. Because I want to. If it gives Matt the heebie-jeebies, it's got to be.
It was a good movie.
Yeah,
I've only seen
times.
it the one time, but yeah, and it was when
that was enough.
Yeah, some movies are. That's a Pet Cemetery of the original. Right. I only needed to ever see that once.
All right, so our next question comes from a familiar name to the show. For those of you who have listened to us for a long time, it's our buddy Sean. And Sean says, since Junji Ito did such a great job adapting the Frankenstein story, what would be your pick for the Monster Story comic adaptation? And who is your dream team for that book? First of all, I think you actually meant to say Bernie Wrightson. So, no, I did buy the Frankenstein adaptation by Junji, and it was fantastic. Yeah. Throwing back to the Bernie Wrightson adaptation of that book,
Frankenstein
though, is just,
Alive.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, why don't you kick us off? Who I went first last? Who went first last time?
I don't know.
I'll
go first.
Okay.
So, Sean, I'm sorry, but I changed this up a little bit because the adaptation that I wanted to see, adaptation I wanted to read, I just actually read. And I found this book. It was a little gem I found at Ollie's. Mm-hmm. And it was Dracula. And it says it's written by Bram Stoker. And
there's an R in there that just magically puts itself there.
Bram Stoker, and it's drawn by Matt Paget, or however you say his name. This is, if you've ever talked to me in person about the book Dracula, mm-hmm. I really don't like it because of the way it's told. Not because of the story itself. Right. I hate the letter concept. He takes all of that out and just tells the story through sequential art, and it's fucking fantastic.
Nice.
It's the best. And it's essentially the one that the Magnolia one or Coppola's one without the love story. Mm-hmm. But it's fantastic. So. Yeah. And I paid $3 for this book in Ollie's.
Dude, I need to come to the Ollie's in North Little Rock. Do you know what Ollie's is, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you guys sent me there months ago.
Yeah, so that was...
We've done our due diligence.
That was my choice, and sorry it's not, picking a new one, but there's so many adaptations out there.
Yeah.
That I went with one that I'd recently read that I really...
I think that's fair, man.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I'll go next. So I actually took a team that has done work together before, and honestly, they won an Eisner for their work together, and that's Tom King and Jason Fabok. The last thing that they did together was the Swamp Thing Winter Special story that was in, I want to say it was in the Walmart book, but it came out in the hardcover not too long ago. Stunning book. It's Tom King, so I automatically that's quality right now for me, my personal taste. And I said that I would love to see that creative team do a Creature from the Black Lagoon story.
Oh my God, I would buy that instantly.
Yeah, give me Tom King and Jason Fabok doing a.
Why have we not had a Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Because they haven't hired me as an editor yet, and swear to God, as much as I want to be a lawyer, if somebody from comics calls me right now and says, "Hey, we have a job for you. I'm dropping out of law school and going to be a comics editor."
Since I know Justin Jordan and Colin Bunn listen to the show,
yeah,
either one of you needs to write a Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I wonder if that's the universal property issue. I wonder.
Maybe, but I mean, we have Dracula, we have mummies, we have just about every other. I mean, there's werewolf stories.
Yeah, but the Creature from the Black Lagoon, though, isn't that specifically a universal property?
Yeah, probably.
As opposed to werewolf story, what I'm saying?
Werewolves, yeah.
It may be, but
the Wolf Man, I guess, is their property.
So, they could license it out. I mean, that... But no, dude.
Give me something similar then.
Right.
Yeah, dude. I
Creature from the Gray Lagoon.
Yeah, or just the creature.
Hey, no, dude. I think that would be a killer project.
Absolutely.
That's mine. Good question.
It was really difficult for me not to pick an H.P. Lovecraft story for this because that's what I'm reading right now. But when it comes to an adaptation that I think somebody could really expand on, I picked Alan Moore and Joe Bennett. To remind everybody, Joe Bennett's doing the pencils for Immortal Hulk. And there's a book I read as a kid, which I shouldn't have read as a kid, called Watchers by Dean Koontz. Are you guys familiar with this?
I'm not. My wife reads all kinds of Dean Koontz.
So this is one of his early books, very successful. The story is this man finds an escaped yellow lab. And what he comes to find out is this yellow lab has escaped a local government entity that has developed a super intelligent dog, essentially has human level intelligence.
Oh, it's the prequel to We 3.
And is telepathically linked to a biologically engineered primate killing machine.
It definitely is the prequel to We 3.
So the idea was these two animals to be developed to be used in war. The dog would go in as reconnaissance and, report what he sees telepathically to this killing machine primate. And there'd be legions of these things. So there's something happens at this lab. The dog gets out. Well, so does this creature. The creature harbors nothing but violent resentment for the dog because everybody loves the dog. And he's been in this laboratory watching everybody love on the dog and poke him with sticks and throw food at him because he's
the killer.
This is fucking sad.
So he gets out.
As was We 3.
And they're telepathically linked. So he's on the hunt for this dog and killing everybody he comes in contact with in violent fashion. Yeah, I read this as a very young
Why has
child.
this not been adapted into a comic?
So for this to be expanded on by somebody like Alan Moore to take the psychology of this, I think would be absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who'd you say on the art?
Joe Bennett.
Nice.
Yeah. For him to be drawing the monster.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention everything else, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the way he draws his Hulk is very,
that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Man, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Our next question. What makes a good monster? Design, origin, motivation? Obviously, it's a combination of all those things, but what's the one aspect that carries the most weight when deeming something a monster? And that's from Alex Mansfield. And so, what for you? What makes a good monster?
Motivation.
Is it?
Yeah, motivation, without a doubt.
Yeah, I chose motivation as well, and Frankenstein's monster to me is one of my favorite all-time monsters, and it's one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of the motivation behind Frankenstein's monster. This is a monster that goes on a killing spree because he's created and abandoned.
Yeah.
Which on some level we can all relate to.
Mm-hmm.
That we were put here, and then you're having to deal with all this stuff. You didn't ask for this existence, but you're put here.
Mm.
You didn't have to deal with it. So to me, it's always been motivation.
Hey, mine, I didn't put down motivation, but I think it spins out of that. I said for me, what makes a good monster is how it relates to the world around us, like what it's reflecting in the real world.
Right.
Again, I'm of the opinion that good horror and good monsters that are linked to horror, there's something inherently political about them. Like you think about movies, I mean, you can go old school. Well, no, they're like I say political, and that not as in like, American government politics, but like you think about the Blob. The Blob, the movie, as a monster, that's a treatise on communism. You think about something more recently came out. Is it Jordan Peele that did Get Out?
Yeah.
That was about racism.
Yeah.
That was about the way white people control black bodies. Like, so to me, what makes a good monster is what political machinism it's reflecting from our real world. Vampires are either normally a reflection of being scared of the stranger or homophobia.
Right.
Wolves are inherently fear of the beast, like fear of non-humans. There's an othering thing there. So to me, that's what, and again, it's motivation inherently. So I think it's tied to it.
Well, it's something Anne Rice did remarkably well, whether you like her vampire stories or not. She took the vampire mythology and gave you motivation in lump sum forms behind them.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Joss Whedon and Angel and Buffy. What made Buffy a great monster show was it connected the monsters to everyday life of teenagers and what teenagers face. Yeah. Like what real world shit that we go, like teenagers, I say we, I'm not a teenager, but
that we went through as teenagers, yes.
All right, so Billy Z, also of the Comic Book Bears podcast. Cut to the chase, man. What's your favorite Marvel monster?
This is easy. Hulk. I mean,
nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went Fin Fang Foom. Every time he's in a book, I automatically am just more excited that he's in the book because he's used so rarely I just love when he makes an appearance. And, of course, it's another Kirby Kirby Lee creation, So
Matt just brought me shame. Matt has shamed me.
He chose Hulk.
He chose Hulk. I didn't choose Hulk. I don't like Hulk. Hulk is
my God.
No, Hulk's a monster. But when I thought about Marvel monsters, I didn't think about the Hulk. I think of the Hulk as a character.
You're a fake geek girl.
We're gatekeeping you.
Yeah, for real.
You're not really a Hulk fan, are you?
I went with Man-Thing. I think Man-Thing's one of my favorite monsters.
Great,
I don't know why I didn't think about the Hulk though, because I always say the Hulk is a monster.
But I mean he's a monster in the way that
I think because he's tied to Bruce, I still consider him a person and not a monster.
Well, he's written a lot of times as a hero, so it's kind of that. But yeah,
no, I said Man-Thing just because, a thing from the swamp. Everything he touches. Like if you're scared, it doesn't matter if you're. He's kind of like the apathetic line. It doesn't matter if you're a bad guy and scared because you're a bad guy, or you're a good guy scared and you're a good guy. If you just know fear, all humans know fear. You're all going to burn at the touch of the Man-Thing. That's terrifying to me.
Well, in Boy Thing and Avengers right now,
that's
oh my God, Blade's like, this ain't my fight. Well, look at Boy Thing, and now it's my fight.
Yeah. Boy, he loves him. He loves his boy. That's weird to say.
Blade loves his Boy Thing.
That's a sound clip.
Oh boy,
that's going to get used against me.
Context.
All right. Frankie DeJesus has something for us. Create your own Frankenstein's monster, meaning take the body parts from your favorite heroes or villains and create your monster. Bonus point, who's your Frankenstein, or your Dr. Frankenstein? Who creates your monster? Did any of y'all think about Moon Knight, Bendis' Moon Knight, when y'all read this question?
A little bit.
That's what I thought of. Yeah.
So, for me, this was a hard one because any of those combination you would want are kind of already done.
Yeah.
But I said Bruce Banner would travel to the DC universe and he would take Batman's brain out and put it in Superman. That would be fairly terrifying.
That's how you end the world.
Wow. So mine, give me an evil Swamp Thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I could see, I said give me Brainiac's mind, his brain, Bullseye's apathy for life, Professor X's telepathic reach, and Ultron's hatred of humanity. And that's how you end the world.
Yeah.
That's just flat out, it's over at that point.
Yeah.
And obviously, the person who does this, the Dr. Frankenstein who creates this monster, is the Mole Man. Obviously.
Obviously, yes.
The Mole Man.
So I treated these as two separate questions because the second part of this question, I'm thinking, okay, who could create a monster, and who would do that the best for what I would enjoy would be Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I could see any of the Illuminati doing it, because they all think they're so much smarter than everybody else. If we did this, we could stop this. Would be their mentality.
A lot of the Illuminati have made monsters. I said Ultron, Hank Pym made the worst monster. It took from my opinion. Last one. We got time for one more, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Because we only got one more on the list. Also from Frankie. What's your favorite kaiju in any medium? I knew we were going to get a kaiju question. It was inevitable.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to get one. The easy answer for this is Godzilla for me. But I kind of figured, if you ask a question about kaiju, that's it's the easy answer because it's immediately what everybody goes to. I'm going to branch out and say the Kraken.
Okay.
I think the Kraken, the giant squid monster, I consider that to be a kaiju.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm going to say the Kraken. I think the Kraken's my favorite one.
Matt?
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Cthulhu, man.
Cthulhu is a kaiju. Cthulhu kaiju.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good title.
I said Gamera, the flying turtle from Godzilla.
Yeah.
I've always loved that monster.
Wasn't that also the flying turtle from It? That's what I'm going to say.
Probably. I mean, Stephen King got his motivation somewhere, or his inspiration somewhere.
Yeah.
Drugs.
As a kid, mostly cocaine, but as a kid, it was always Gamera that I always loved when there was a Godzilla movie and Gamera was in it. So
after this more recent Godzilla movie, I think Mothra was boss level, dude.
Mothra was
badass
level.
In that movie.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that movie, go watch. I love it.
Have you heard that joke that's going to be what stops King Kong and Godzilla from fighting?
The love of Mothra?
No, one of them's going to yell out Mothra, and the other one's going to go, "Why did you say Mothra?"
Oh, yes.
No, you didn't.
Somebody please do that.
Get out. I got to walk away. I'm done with this podcast. I have hate in my heart.
I can't take credit for that. I read it online.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah.
So, those are good questions all around.
Yeah.
Those were really good questions. And so we hope you enjoyed our answers. We'd love for you to come discuss them with us, just anywhere you can find us. I've already said where you can. You've been listening, so you know. We're a month away. We're 4 weeks away from doing the next one.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to have a topic. We got to have a topic to put up on our Facebook page. And so Matt came up with an idea, and I'm reminding him what the idea is right now. So, Matt, why don't you announce to the boys and girls and the gender-neutral folks who are listening to the podcast what our topic is? Yeah.
So we want to know what your favorite horror movie trope is.
Horror
trope.
Actually, we want questions about horror and horror tropes.
Horror stories.
Horror stories,
Yeah.
And tropes can be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Facebook. I'm going to get into the GIF bar, and I'm going to type in horror stories, and I'm going to post one of the GIFs that pop up. And then that's where you, our dear listeners, people who are part of this, you're part of the family, you're going to ask us questions about horror stories. It can be about comics, it can be about video games, it can be about movies, it can be about this, that, or the other, it can be about real life, it can be about Vampirella. Who can say? Who can say what you're going to... I'm saying that because she's standing in front of me right now. And you're going to ask us questions.
Stands in the corner of my office.
Otherwise, that had sounded really random.
Have you listened to the show? And
Chaos episode.
Round about the time that Halloween is in full bloom, we are going to deliver the answers to your questions right here on this podcast. And we're going to have fun with it. And we hope you do too.
For sure.
For sure. So the way we like to end every episode, kind of brings us home. Every Wednesday, new comic book day. Favorite day of the week for all of us, right? Like, we get new books. We love to read them. Excited about it. Inherently, we don't know what new books are going to be good or bad. It's always a toss-up. Who knows? Who can say? But we are going to hedge our bets, so to speak. We're going to set the menu for our future comic consumption, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we're going to give you guys some hints about what we think you should pick up. Don't blame us if you read something bad. We're just guessing here, throwing darts at the wall and seeing what pops up. Craig, what are you reading next week, dude?
I have Vampire State Building by Blaze Comics, Ainge and Charlie Adler. If you're wondering what Charlie was going to be doing after Walking Dead, this is it. This is his creator-owned stuff that he's moving on to.
I saw this in the previews.
Yeah, it was actually kind of the first hint that Walking Dead was ending, because it was solicited like the week before the last Walking Dead issue came out.
Everybody was like, hey, look, Charlie Adler.
How's Charlie Adler going to have time to do a full-color comic?
Wow.
Well, this might be why.
As it turns out.
Wow. So mine is Image Comics Dead Eyes #1, Jerry Dugan and John McCrea. This is, if everybody was familiar with...
Caleb is frantically typing.
I'm just backspacing.
Yeah, I had a backup because I assumed this would happen.
I didn't go first because I spent 2 weeks stealing people's answers.
So this is picking up, or a restart probably is a better way to call this, from the Dead Rabbit series that these guys were doing. That was excellent.
I wonder if the first 2 issues are going to be reprints of the first 2 issues with just a different name on it. Hopefully not.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because the whole, for those that don't know, the first series got shut down for legal reasons.
Copyright infringement.
Yeah, which was asinine given the situation. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is a complete restart or if they'll do what Craig mentioned. But regardless, I'm super thrilled that we're getting it back because it started out just dynamite.
So
I don't care if the first 2 are reprints as long as issue 3
Yeah.
gets to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't care if the first issue is actually issue 3 of... I don't care. It's that good.
Yeah.
I was alphabetizing some comics this past week, going through and getting rid of the ones I keep downstairs and moving them to my collection. And I was in I was in what was the original one called?
Dead Rabbit.
Dead Rabbit.
Yeah, I was in the D's and flipping through and found the first issue, and I just had to stare at it lovingly. Like, sometimes you find like a picture of your ex, and you're like, I remember.
How are you going to alphabetize those 2?
I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Probably however my CLZ app tells me to. The machines tell me what to do. I'm down. I'm not making decisions.
He is ready for his robot overlords.
I am. Give me my robot body. Take me
I have
to my
Jerry's
robot
pick
president.
too. I didn't ask him, but I know what it is. It's Dark Arc After the Flood by Colin Bunn and Wando. It brings us back to the post-Noah flood era, where the monsters are going to be trying to take over the rest of humanity.
Wait, this is an Aftershock book?
It's Aftershock.
I don't think Jerry picked this book.
Yes, he did. Because Jerry loved Dark Ark. And this is the follow-up series to that. I promise you Jerry would have chose this book.
Sure.
He wanted to talk about 2 books.
No, I wanted Jerry to have a book.
All right. So the one that I picked, I think folks should check out. I'm kind of excited about it.
Was it Dark Ark?
No, it wasn't.
That would have sucked.
No. You're all good. It's a book from a creator that I really like, and that's really well known. I've read some of his other stuff, but I've never read much of this subject matter, and that's Grendel, The Devil's Odyssey by Matt Wagner is coming out, and it's this new #1 that he's playing with Grendel again. Last summer, I think it was, I read Mage. I started reading his Mage series and read through the first omnibus of it. Completely fell in love with it. I know for 90s kids, Grendel was huge. Like, people loved like the idea of that. I've never
so that they had Batman and Grendel crossover.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
I've never read much of Grendel.
Me either.
And prior to, honestly, I think it was David Price from the EOC podcast, 11 O'Clock Comics, who loves Matt Wagner to death. He's the one who got me to read it, and I'm glad he did. And so I'm going to try to pick up Grendel's Devil's Odyssey by Matt Wagner. It's new #1. And this isn't this is going to be a Jerry pick moment. Just a shout out to a book that is coming out this week, and it's not my pick, but it's the reason I want to throw a shout out to it is because it's a local guy that's doing it. Ghost Rider #1 comes out next week, and it's drawn by Aaron Cooter. Yeah. Aaron Cooter is from Arkansas. He's a dear friend of ours that is doing great things. He's listed as one of Marvel's young guns, and he's an excellent artist doing great work. Really can't wait to see what he does with the Ghost Rider, man. And I'm always down to help promote local guys who are cool. Local guys who are cool dudes, always down. And not that he's working for fucking Marvel. He doesn't need me to promote, pitch his name, but he's doing good stuff. You're in your local comic shop and you're not necessarily a Ghost Rider fan, maybe, or maybe you've never really been into it. Give it a shot.
I'm telling you, I signed up for that book, and the cover of the first issue,
stunning, man,
is it's a throwback to the 90s.
Yep.
Javier Saltera's cover. And it's beautiful.
About it. Yeah. Well, we're ready to bring this thing home?
Ready.
Let's do this.
Well, do we have any more picks for Jerry?
No.
Matt, did you have a pick for Jerry?
Do you have a Jerry?
I don't.
So,
if only there was a Wolverine book, I could pick a Jerry.
We're going to have to throw a Jerry. That's going to be a thing now, right? Like Jerry pick?
Jerry pick.
There's going to be a Jerry pick when he's not on the show. Oh, that's funny. Well, guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, comic book fans, we really hope you've enjoyed the last hour and a half of us just sitting around bullshitting, really. Talking about some things we love, talking about comics, talking about the monster genre of things. Come back next week. We're going to be talking about nothing but comics. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to roundtable a book, and each of us is going to bring our own book to the table to tell the others about. They may have read it. They may not have read it. It's a toss-up. Who knows? Who can say? But we're going to have fun with it. We really hope you do as well. Again, why are you not on our Facebook group? If you're not there, you should be. It's the place. It's on and popping. Was that the phrase, Matt? It's on and popping?
Hot and popping.
It's hot and popping.
Hot and popping.
It's on fleek.
Dabbing and flossing.
It's on fleek. There's kings and queens all over the place.
Lit.
It is lit AF. As AF. What'd you say? As F?
As
Is
F.
that what you said earlier?
Lit as F.
Yeah. Lit as F. We're all the time posting pictures on our Instagram page of books that we're reading, things that we like, old books, new books, whatever, just things that we're consuming. We think good panels. We're throwing those up on our Instagram page. Come follow us. Come follow us on Twitter. Same handle for both, at SFG Podcast. I said it earlier. If you got a question, you got a comment, you got a concern, you got a thing, you need to tell me something, and you don't want to put it on our social media sites, shoot us an email. We got an email. We're official. We're official as AF. As Matt likes to say. southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And if nothing further, we hope you all have great weeks. We'll be back here, same time, same place, same bad channel. Go forth. Love some comics.
Woo!
That was a good word, Craig.